Greetings, YouTube. In Indiana, no gays allowed. The governor of Indiana has signed in a bill into law which now allows private businesses to put up no gay allowed signs in their windows. They are able to refuse service to anyone that they feel violates their deeply held religious beliefs. I wonder if a Muslim business owner put up a no women allowed sign, how that would go over. That's half the population of the state. Or would that be viewed favorably by the socially conservative Christians? Now, if I were Bruce Wayne wealthy, I would buy a business in Indiana, particularly in the capital, Indianapolis. Actually, I think the capital of Indiana is Indianapolis. If I'm wrong, I apologize. But I'm sure that Indianapolis is probably the biggest city. And I would buy up a business, and then I would fire all the employees that were Christian. Now, I would do this intentionally, because this is an Emperor Palpatine move. I would be sued. And in the suit, I would then show how the law defends my right to discriminate against Christians because I consider Christians the source of all evil in America. Now, that statement is very loaded, and it is technically true, which, as a character from The Simpsons will tell you, being technically right is the best kind of right, kind of like being technically true. You see, social conservatism is the danger in America, and in America, social conservatism is driven by Christianity. There are countries where social conservatism is driven by the Islamic faith. There are places where it's driven by the Judaism. There are places where it's driven by atheism, say China or the former Soviet. Interesting, the social conservatism in Russia went from being driven by atheism to driven by Christianity, and yet the social conservatism didn't skip a beat. It kept right on rolling. It's almost as though people will use any excuse under the sun to defend their socially conservative worldviews and allowing themselves to be douche nozzle bigots. Because that's what this law in Indiana does. It says, I am allowed to be a douche nozzle bigot. Now, the lawsuit I would be hit with would go to court, and I'd make sure it went up as high into the court as I could possibly get it. And it is in my favor no matter what happens. Because if it wins, if I win and can actually fire the people, the Christians in the state of Indiana would make sure the law gets struck down, removing the law from the books, which is what I want. And if I lose, I can then show that the law doesn't do what it does. I could countersue the state or something like that, and the law would effectively become powerless. So regardless, I would win. The only people adversely affected would be the people at the business I would own, I would have purchased. That would be a downside. And if I'm Bruce Wayne wealthy, I could buy up a lot of businesses. I could potentially have a very negative impact on the Indiana economy. Speaking of which, the Gen Con convention has stated that they're going to be moving out of Indiana. Now, unfortunately, contracts being what contracts are, it's not going to happen this year, and I don't know if it's going to happen next year either. Sometimes these contracts can be out for 2 or 3 years, particularly when you're doing a really big convention like Gen Con, which is the biggest gaming convention on the planet. So, with any luck, this law will have been struck down by the time that would have rolled around, so they won't have to move. If not, I hope that they do move. In addition, a company named Salesforce, which I'd never heard of before, is willing to actually roll back most of their investment in the state to the tune of $4 billion because of this law, because they feel it will have a negative impact on their employees and their employees' families. Oh, by the way, the law is known as the RFRA, the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. Because, in America, if there's one group that doesn't have enough power, it's Christianity. Yep, that's one group that has no power in America. absolutely powerless in America. They have no ability to do anything. They have been nothing but hounded and persecuted for the last 300 years. I mean, look at our presidential record. We never had a Christian president. Now, you can imagine how persecuted you would feel if you've never had a president of your faith. Now, isn't that just heartbreaking? Now, I'd like to close with a brief message to the writer of this bill, to all the people in their legislature that voted for this bill, and for the governor that signed this bill into law. You are all, to a person, morally bankrupt. You are devoid of empathy, sympathy, or compassion. You have shown the world you are nothing but theistic bigots. And as a parting note, from me to you, you theistic bigots, screw you and the horse you rode in on. The only positive in this whole horrible story, as this is obviously a rearguard action of a failed socially conservative movement. They know they're losing, and they're getting desperate. And I would like to close with my favorite Gandhi quote. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win.